must be.
Welcome, everyone. So good to see you. This is Benjamin Beaver, and I don't know if you can see my face right now, but it is looking so nice. And if you can't see my face, that's good for you. I'm very glad it's a face made for radio. I'm with Love Akron, as well as Miss Lori Porter, who's on here with me. Welcome, everyone. And as we're coming in and jumping in, we are so excited. Could you actually just let us know real quick, right on the chat? You can just say where you're engaging from, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're right here in the Zoom meeting. Just let us know. We'd love to see you. West Akron, home office, Zoom. Very good answer on Zoom. I like that. I haven't heard that one before. Zoom meeting. Okay, very good, very good. You are at the Zoom meeting. Very exciting. Now, my friends, to introduce a well-bearded man, a great man, as it were, Rob is going to be hosting us tonight. Rob, over to you, my friend.
I didn't realize I was hosting tonight, sir. I thought Bruce was at. I know I'm up for
I can go ahead and get us started if you want here.
All right. Thank you, Bruce.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this evening's virtual debate between the two candidates to be Summit County's next sheriff. I'm Bruce Wingus. I'm the past president of the Akron Press Club and also a retired editor of the Akron Beacon Journal. This virtual debate is a collaborative effort involving the Akron Interfaith Council, the Akron Press Club, the Akron Civility Center, and Love Akron. I'd like to thank these groups for coming together to produce this event. I'd like to thank our two candidates for agreeing to this debate to participate in that. I'd like to thank our panelists and our timekeeper for their work. Also need to thank Kemp Boyd of Love Akron for his work in bringing this debate together, and Ben Beaver and Lori Porter of Love Akron for running this event on their platform. We're all new at this virtual world that we now inhabit. Barring any issues, barking dogs, or other distractions, we should have a good debate tonight. So again, welcome. We'll start by meeting our candidates. First of all, we have Shane Barker, Republican. He spent more than 25 years in the Summit County Sheriff's Department. He was an administrative captain at the jail before retiring in 2019. I believe I have that right, Captain. Yeah. And on the Democrat side, we have Candy Fothery. She has worked at the Summit County Sheriff's Department for 25 years, and she currently is an administrative captain. The winner of this election will replace Steve Berry, a sheriff who is retiring at the end of his year. We have two panelists who will be asking questions of our candidates. M.L. Schulze of WKSU Radio and an Akron Press Club board member. And we have Rob Kerr of the Faith Lutheran Church. I will tell you that the candidates have not seen the questions ahead of time. There we go. The order of the questions with the debate was determined by a coin flip that we had a little bit earlier this evening. So the first question will go to Captain Barker, and then he will have 90 seconds to answer that question. Captain Fothery then will have 45 seconds for a rebuttal. And then the next question will go to Captain Fothery, and the process begins over again. Each candidate will be asked the same number of questions, and our timekeeper will use cards to let our candidates know when their time is up. She will hold up a yellow card, which means you have 15 seconds to go, and a red card, which means stop. And I can't remember if I introduced our timekeeper or not, but she is Leanne Fowler from the Press Club. Thank you, Leanne. Each candidate at the end of the debate will have 90 seconds to make a closing statement. So now that we've got all that stuff out of the way, I think we're ready to start. Candidates, are y'all ready to go here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, here we go. The first question goes to Captain Barker.
Good evening, Captain Barker.
Good evening, Joe.
All right. Our first question for you tonight, sir, is what could you as sheriff do to ensure the relationship between the deputies in your agency and the community are as strong as possible?
So one of the first things that I would do, first off, thank you for having here and thank you for reaching out to me for this. That was nice to reconnect with you. One of the first things I would do is create an office of recruitment and community outreach. The recruitment portion would be to get men and women that are qualified to join the agency in our professional ranks, whether it's in the civilian or the deputy sheriff side of it. And in community outreach, I would create a civilian panel that would meet with me at least quarterly, probably more often in my first year of office. And they would advise me on what's going on in the community, what the sheriff's office can do. They would look at our policies and procedures. They would look at our uses of force. They look at all aspects of our agency and advise me on how we can do better at that. And the reason I know these things work is when I was on the Jail Advisory Commission, we had just such a panel and we accomplished such great things during that. I believe in this process and reaching out to the community so they can tell me what needs to be done.
Okay, rebuttal.
Thank you.
Well, one of the things that I would do is have community policing. I'd have our deputies spend more time out of the car and engaged more with the community itself. And I would assign deputies to attend functions that are occurring within the communities around the entire county. So it would not be just the locations that we currently serve. It would be the entire county that I would look at as far as community engagement. And the most important thing, I think, is to be at all of the community events as well as all of the council meetings that are taking place. Have a deputy attend all of those.
Okay, thank you. The next question goes to Captain Fothery.
Captain Fothery, in going a little bit further along the line of where we started, in particular, what would you as sheriff do to strengthen the relationship between your department and the African American community and other communities of color throughout Summit County?
Well, I've already started doing that. I have already set the groundwork by actively meeting with the community, some of the protest leaders and the policymakers and minority health agencies. I've already started talking to them about a collaborative effort. Internally, I'd create a team to address the core reasons why our minority deputies don't take promotional exams. And I would also talk about the externally, I would be dealing with the faith-based community that I've already had communications with and having them come in and help with diversity and inclusion training within our sheriff's office.
Rebuttal, Captain Barker.
Yes, I will reach out to the community as well. And that's what my Office of Community Outreach will do. I will reach out specifically and to them and talk to them about what's going on. And they'd also be part of my transition team. They would come in, review the operations of the sheriff's office as it is currently operating, and advise me how we can make it better when I take office in January. So I would just reach out to the community as a whole, and it would be our policing districts, it would be Akron, it would be Barberton, it would be Cuyahoga Falls, it would be all of them. I'd get them all on board and talk to me and educate the staff on what we can do to make things better.
Okay. The next question goes to Captain Barker.
Hey, what policy changes regarding race relations would you make, and how would those changes be guided and implemented?
Well, the first thing I would do is on my first 100 day, I would have my community outreach committee get together and we review all the current policies of the Summit County Sheriff's Office and review them and see if there's any institutional racism based in that. I'd also have the community look at those, and I would have educational sectors of the community look at it, and I would reach out to you guys as well and have you guys look at that, and we'd get together and we'd go over all of those and we'd go from there.
Rebuttal, Captain Fothery.
I would reach out to the international communities, and I would, as far as policies and procedures are concerned, I'd have all of them reviewed, because I plan on having a jail administrator that would help to address those, the policies and procedures. I've already talked to some in the faith-based community about coming in and teaching diversity and inclusion within the sheriff's office. I think that in improving the training internally and externally, helping to guide both sides to have more of a relationship is the most important thing to do.
Okay. The next question goes to Captain Fothery.
Well, it's been criticized by some as too limited. All are part of a set of police reforms called 8 Can't Wait, have been adopted by more than 100 police departments nationwide. They include steps such as requiring officers to be trained in and de-escalate situations, banning choke and strangle holds, exhausting alternatives before an officer fires a weapon, and requiring comprehensive reporting of all police use of force incidents. In thinking about those reforms specifically, but also other reforms, specific reforms, what do you see as applicable to the Summit County Sheriff's Department?
I think that the 8 Can't Wait program is very capable. I mean, I think that we could absolutely do that. Most importantly, as far as changing the demographics of how we as law enforcement officers interact and how we respond. I think that de-escalation needs to be a priority. It's something that needs to be trained on a monthly basis. In addition to that, I think that we have to have critical incident training that has to go throughout the entire sheriff's office. And we also, one of the most important things is role playing, because you have to prepare for those scenarios in advance. And the most important thing is the training. But the 8 Can't Wait can absolutely be put through the Summit County Sheriff's Office.
Captain Barker, 45
So I
seconds.
think when people talk about de-escalation training, they need to realize that that helps both parties. It helps the professional officers on the street, and it helps the community at large. So that de-escalation training, I'm all for. None of our deputies are out there wanting to go hands-on. There's just usually not a lot of good outcomes come with that. So we currently do scenario-based training. We don't train the chokehold. I would never bring a chokehold. I don't think that that's something you want to do. You're already engaged, and you don't want to do that. We currently do scenario-based training where it's high stress level, and we put the deputies through that. And I would only increase that. Right now, we do it yearly, but I would want to do it more than just yearly, more than just in our in-service training, probably quarterly at the very least when I take office.
Okay. The next question goes to Captain Barker.
Thank you, Bruce. Captain Barker, if you would describe the culture of the Summit County Sheriff's Department and how it might be improved. And specifically, how would you ensure officers embrace needed changes?
Well, I think you need to have them buy in. You need to educate them on what the problem is. I've been watching some of the videos that actually Love Akron has put on, and they're pretty informative. I like the connection versus collision a lot. So I would get that into the in-service training of the deputies. If you can get them to buy into what the problems are that the community have and what we have within the agency. We talked about promotional exams. We need to find out why people are not taking those. There's qualified people through the entire agency that don't take promotional exams. We need to have the best supervisors we have. So I would sit the deputies down during the in-service training and explain to them what the problems are and have them understand. Because if you don't know what the problem is, you can't correct it. So that's the first thing, is getting to understand what our problems are.
Captain Fatherly.
Well, I think that you have to start from the top and work your way down. So you have to get the buy-in first of supervision as they begin to understand what the mission of the organization is, and they move it down towards the deputies level. So it has to be buy-in from the top down. And as far as addressing the differences, I think that it's most important that we find out why it is that people are having problems within the sheriff's office. Change is absolutely needed, because the culture within the sheriff's office, it has not always been friendly. And I think that we've got to start from the top and work our way down, and we have to start making that important change.
Okay. The next question goes to Captain Fatherly.
Captain Fothery, could you outline the qualities you're looking for in new officers and the specific steps that you would take to recruit them?
Okay, qualities that I'm looking for would be honesty, integrity, having good ethics, somebody who is excited and truly wants to be a police officer and be a peace officer and engage with the community. And as far as a way for us to recruit, I've already put together a plan to reach out to the International Institute to bring in new citizens. I've talked about the possibility of putting together a international police academy, like a basic to get, because they have some problems with driving and shooting and understanding certain things. So I would do those things to help the International Institute. Now, as far as other minority communities, I think, again, you have to go out to the community leaders, you have to go to the schools, and our recruiting team also has to be a reflection of what we're looking for. So we can't just have white men out if we're going to get diversity. We need to have women of color, and we need to have international people as well. So our recruiting team also has to be a reflection of what we're looking for.
Captain Barker, 45 seconds.
Yes, my Office of Recruitment is going to reflect the look of the county at large and community at whole. The first thing I think we need to look at in recruitment is they need to be honest and hardworking. And they also need to know my philosophy on policing. We don't have power because we carry weapons or because we carry pens and we can write citations. We have power because the citizens give that to us. And the moment we break that trust, we've lost that authority, we lost that power. So that is my biggest thing, is when they come in the door, they'll know that we're given a lot of trust, and under my watch, they lose that trust, they don't have a job.
Okay, the next question goes to Captain Barker.
Captain, if you would, we just talked about some of the qualities we were looking for, that you were looking for in the agency. If you would outline the training now in place in the department for new officers, and if there's anything you would like to change about that training, could you share that with us as well, please?
Yes, so actually there's a lot I'd like to change about that training. We haven't had our own academy and our own training facility, which we have a really nice training facility in the city of Grand. I want to bring that academy back to our facility and taught by our people. And I want to put them through a jail school. And I want to add CIT, crisis intervention team training to that. I want to have this all done in-house. And Akron recently, as a recruitment tool, they're starting to pay their cadets. I'd want to talk to the county and say, if we're going to put these men and women through 6 months of training, they just can't not work. They need to be paid to go through it. I think that would be a good tool to recruit. So I want to bring the training back to the Summit County Sheriff's Office, where people are trained by our people and our methods and our techniques, and anything that we bring in new, I would give to them. And I would increase the training, especially in the de-escalation training and critical incident training. Thank you.
Captain Fatherheat, 45 seconds.
As far as training is concerned, I think that we have the opportunity to partner with perhaps the city of Akron and maybe put our police officers through there. We've currently been going through the University of Akron. That has been successful. And we also have we've partnered with Job and Family Services, and they're giving us scholarships to help people so that they can pay to go through the academy. Now, our academy is, at this time, it is both full-time and part-time. So I think that partnering with the city of Akron is certainly an opportunity, and going through the University of Akron, and also looking at the possibility of doing our own. We did that before.
Okay. The next question goes to Captain Fatherheat.
Could you outline for those of us who aren't in the department, what kind of ongoing training officers now have? Your experienced officers, what are they seeing on a regular basis? And what would you like to add, change, alter in any way?
Well, currently the OPATA has changed the requirements, and our deputies actually only go through in-service one shift a year at this time. And for many of them, that's a 12-hour shift, and it's one time. They have the opportunity to take additional trainings, but those trainings are selective. They choose them, or a supervisor recommends that they go. So at the current time, they're only getting 12 hours of training. I would absolutely increase not only our in-service training, but I think that we have to go through, especially in our jail where they're all new, we have to go through training on a regular basis inside the jail, because most of the people in the jail are new, especially on the afternoon shift. But they need to have a scheduled training program, and we also have to include implicit bias and explicit bias. I think that we have to really train our people so that they understand what other people, what the other cultures are like. And I think that one of the things to do that is also with having people from the International Institute. If we get a more diverse employment, I think that will help with people understanding a little bit more. And one of the last things is, again, we really have to do de-escalation training.
Your time's up. Captain Barker, 45 seconds.
So like Captain Fowler said, we currently do have the in-service training, but our jails that work in the deputy, they currently get 8 hours of corrections training. That doesn't include suicide prevention that we give them every year, and we give them fire prevention every year. I would want to start making training so that there's a lot of training on shift. We used to do that. We can do that. Skills that we use, whether it's talking, whether it's driving, and in the jail, it really is talking to people. On the road, it's talking to people. That's the best skill. I'd want to train with that at the very least monthly with they can train on shift with their supervisors, or I could bring somebody in from outside that has these skills, and we would train our people to do that. The things that we do are perishable. If we just do it once a year, you're not getting the full effect of it.
Next question goes to Captain Barker.
Captain Barker, this is probably a pretty in-depth question, but if you could help us understand, how is the discipline of the deputies now handled by the department, and what you would like to change about this?
So you're right, it is a very in-depth question because there's collective bargaining agreements that we have to work with. But I went to the sheriff 10 years ago and said, we need to start a discipline committee. He thought that was a good idea, and we now have a disciplinary committee. So when a deputy's disciplined, the write-up goes up the chain to the disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee reviews it, and then we would send recommendations up to the sheriff that does it. But I think if you administer the collective bargaining agreements is something you have to work in. But if you administer discipline fairly, it's good for morale, because if the deputy next to you is not doing his or her job and getting away with it, that's very detrimental to your morale. And we've seen that, quite frankly. I would sit down with the unions during the contract negotiations. I think the next one is probably next year. And I would sit down and I would want to try to explain to them that discipline, the ability to discipline people once they're done with their year probation or within the year probation, is very important to, one, the trust that we get from the community, and two, for your coworkers that work next to you. I think the nation overall needs to look at the discipline of the staff in general, the law enforcement community as a whole. But remember, the vast majority of them are doing their job and doing a good job. It's the ones that we need to tighten up a little bit and need to be able to have some control over that. Thank you.
Captain Fothergy.
Well, currently the deputy's contract has already settled this year. We're just finishing with the supervisor's contract, actually just getting started with it. And we do have collective bargaining agreement. We do have a disciplinary committee. I do believe that for the most part, discipline is handled fairly, but I would like to be more transparent with it. I don't see any reason why it can't be placed in a position where people have the opportunity to see what your discipline is. So transparency is one of the things that I would change as far as our disciplinary actions are concerned.
The next question goes to Captain Fothergy.
Actually, picking up on that, how is the current process, and how could the process be more accountable to the public, the disciplinary process? You talk about transparency. How would that work?
Well, currently we have a matrix that for discipline. Okay, so we have a progressive discipline in the contract. So it starts out basically, unless it's an egregious offense, you start out with quite possibly a performance discussion that then goes into a written warning, that then goes into a administrative action. The administrative action is progressive for the most part as well, going from 1 day to 3 days to 5 days, time off without pay. When we have everything that we have in discipline is currently on a database, there's no reason why that database cannot be made public so that the public knows what's happening. Certainly anybody who would have a really egregious disciplinary action, that would result in termination. I have no problem with the possibility of the state of Ohio, which is talking about having a review of the certificate. Anybody that's fired, their certificate can be reviewed to see whether or not they should remain a police officer. Those are some possibilities, but that's how the process goes now. And I would absolutely, I have no problem at all putting it on a website so that people have access to the disciplinary actions that are occurring.
Captain Barker?
So unfortunately, and this is not a bad badge of honor to me in any way, because I've lost sleep over it. During some deputies' probationary period, which is the first year, I've had to be the one to deliver the news that they're not going to make their probation. The discipline does have to be transparent, and we do currently have a matrix. You have an offense and you have a penalty. I just would want to sit down and work with the collective bargaining, or talk to the unions and look at the collective bargaining agreement and find out how we can tighten that up and make things more transparent. And this would also be part of my community outreach. They would be involved in the discipline process, just as an advisory to me, as to the sheriff and to the committee. That's some of the things I would do. Thank you.
Okay. Captain Barker, the next question goes to you.
Captain, if you would outline the relationships the sheriff's department has or could be pursuing to make dealing with mental health crisis less fraught, both officers and the individuals in communities.
So the first thing I would do is I would continue our outreach with the ADM board. We currently are several. We are on several committees with them, and we go to the meetings and we get involved in the mental health aspect. We have mental health in the jail. I believe it's about 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. I think they're there 8 hours on Sunday. I would look to increase that. We would sit down and talk to our current provider. It's somebody we bring from the outside and we bring into the jail. And I would sit down and find out how we can make the mental health to the inmates better. But I'd also, more importantly, I would have a release triage. When somebody's released from the jail, no matter whether they're a current mental health patient or they're just somebody that's in for an overnight or in and out booking, they would have a list of stuff, of community services that are available to them. They would go over with either a civilian or a deputy, and we would tell them, this is available, and if you want to do it, here's how you can do it. We're not going to just send people out the door any longer with not knowing what to do, because sometimes they end up right in the back door an hour or so later, as you could attest to, and you work there as well. They need to know the services that are available so we can keep them out to be a productive member of society.
Captain Fatherhy?
Well, there are two things that we need to do at as far as mental health is concerned. One of the things is that we need to work with communities and elected officials to start filling the gaps for when we identify a person that's mentally ill that should not be in our jail, that we can get them into rehabilitation where they absolutely need to be. There are a lot of holes in our system that need to be filled, and I've been working for the last year talking to the community in an effort to try to fill those gaps. One of the other things is that we need to look at models that will reflect the mental health population. We need to go into the communities and identify who they are before they get into our jail so they don't come.
Okay. The next question goes to Captain Fatherhy.
Operating a county jail is one of the functions that's very explicitly put under a sheriff as a responsibility of a sheriff under Ohio law. Going hand in hand with that is the assumption that the jail would be a safe place. The jail has had some suicides, including, I believe, the most recent in February. Can you talk about what has been done and could be done to save people's lives?
Inside our jail, probably the most important thing is that our jail was designed to have deputies in front of the inmates at all time, inside with them, watching them closely. And that's when we started having a problem with our income, that stopped. We had a lot more of remote watching. So people out in the deputies in the center of the unit watching through the glass windows. I think that we have to readjust the way that our organization is structured, and we need to get more deputies back into the jail and have them back in front of the inmates themselves. That doesn't give them the opportunity to be able to commit suicide. For many years, from the beginning of opening that jail in 1990, we did not have a successful suicide for close to 20 years. And it's because we had direct supervision. And that's what we need to go back to, is a absolute direct supervision.
Captain Barker, 45 seconds.
So she's 100% accurate about the direct supervision. If we're not going to be able to maintain the direct supervision, that means a deputy on each half of the pod where they can see down the sight lines and monitor what's going on. We need to rethink maybe what the jail is right now in its current capacity. We've added cameras. We could add more technology with, we've put cameras inside of the cells where the inmates are in suicide precautions. So we have that now. We did that last year before I retired. We need to make sure that they're screened by mental health. And we need to make sure that they know how to get help if they need it. More importantly, we need to let the other inmates know what to look for. And our deputy staff needs to know what to look for before somebody might go down this path. And that's something we work on yearly in the jail, and we'll continue to do it.
Okay, the next question goes to Captain Barker.
Captain, we started looking at this and talking about this with at the beginning of COVID, and now I'd like to hear from you. What early release and other bond alternatives do you embrace, and would you like to see it expanded or at least explored for some other options?
Yeah, we actually started a program when I was one of the jail administrative captains in the jail, where they would get a summons in lieu of coming to jail, depending on what the charge was. It could be a felony charge. We would issue a summons in lieu of coming to jail. Now, when we looked at that program, we were getting about a 70% going to court rate. So that worked out very well. And I know the jail is down now because of COVID. I know they're having some problems getting people in, but we'll take the violent people in, we'll get them in, keep them in, keep them secure in the facility. But where there's a possibility to get with actually call a judge or a clerk of court at home, we have done it. I have personally done it. We will continue to do that. I think that's a good program. And summons in lieu of arrest is appropriate in some cases. Sometimes the police officer doesn't want to embrace it, but I know Akron, I know our guys have been on board with it because they know that it works. When you're being summoned and you come to court and you go through the process, that process works. We can continue that. We can increase it throughout all the communities in Summit County. We need to sit down with them. I'd sit down with the chiefs of police. They have an association throughout the county, and I would explain to them the summons in lieu of arrest, and maybe some of their arrests fit this bill. So that's one of the things I communicate to all the agencies throughout the county.
Thank you, Captain.
Fatherly, 45 seconds.
Captain Barker's absolutely right. The entire state went to a summons program. It was directed from the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation, ODRC. They didn't want people going into the prison, so we started into a summoning system here in Summit County, and it actually has been pretty successful. You'll never have 100%, but it's been pretty successful. As far as other ways to do things, I think that we have to work with the judges to talk about different ways to do releases. Not everyone needs to go to jail. Sometimes those that are mentally ill should be going to a rehabilitation center or a hospital instead of coming to our jail. And then the same thing with some of those people who have mental illness. I think that they are.
Your time is up.
Sorry.
That's okay. But you get the next question. So Captain Fatherly, it's your question now.
And again, it dovetails with what you were just discussing. So I think we can continue the thought. We've talked about release before conviction, bond alternatives, things like that. But what programs do you think are most effective? What alternatives to jail and down the road prison do you think are most effective? And I guess I'd ask you to evaluate effectiveness in cutting down on recidivism and making you and your officers' job also easier.
Well, I can tell you this, as far as recidivism is concerned, there's already a program down in Delaware County that they've been doing, and they have actually reduced their recidivism down by 13%. And that's pretty significant. If we could do a 13% reduction, would be incredible. They have a program that they have set up where they have contacted all of the stakeholders within the county, and when they're getting people out that are homeless, and they're finding homes for them. They're getting people out that are mentally ill. They're putting them into facilities and helping to rehabilitate them. People who have substance abuse, they're going into rehabilitation centers as well. And the thing is that like the mentally ill, many of them are homeless. So we have to work to find ways to find them homes, get them on a Social Security disability so they have an income, and have probate court assist them with also providing somebody to watch them. And then the other thing is there's a lot of community leaders that can assist us in helping to reduce the recidivism. I think that you've got to address people in their homes as well. So we need to start this before they get into jail. But after they get into the jail, I have a program that we can use that will already help to reduce recidivism. But we do have to address it at the community level before they get into the jail.
Barker, 45 seconds.
So this is something I've been thinking about for a long time. When I worked in the jail, you'd see the same people in and out, in and out, in and out. And it got to be very sad. So I think my idea of the release triage can help to eliminate that some way, whether it's reaching out to the ADM board, to the Oriana Houses. The Oriana House incorporated throughout Summit County and throughout the state has many, many programs we can get them in. Any of the local churches or the local charities, we can get the people into those services. I think you have to get them a place where they can land safely. And if you have a list that everybody has to check off and they go through, you can help them when they get out the door, that they don't come in through, when we let them out the front door, they don't come in through the back door. I think that should be our ultimate goal.
Captain Barker, you get the next question.
Captain, you touched on this a little earlier on one of the earlier questions. When it comes to mental health and other services, do you think they should be expanded at the jail, and how? And since you answered a little bit of that earlier, maybe you could expand and go into even patrol if you think mental health could be incorporated into some of your operational divisions as well.
So I think it'd be incorporated into all of our divisions, whether it's our detective bureau, whether it's our courthouse, because we deal with people that are either, coming into court to watch the proceedings, or they're coming in reporting to court, whether they're in jail or not. The deputies over there could have more mental health training. Yeah, I think we can do a whole lot better with that. We need to get, the mental health people are not in the jail 24/7. We need to talk to the county and say, when somebody's struggling at 2 o'clock in the morning, instead of leaving a message, on a voice system, we need to have a professional in that building can handle that, instead of putting people in gowns and they sit in gowns for 8 to 10 hours before they get spoken to. I would like to see it 24/7. Our medical staff is 24/7. Mental health should not be any different. The deputies on the road, they need to have training. They need to have the crisis intervention team training so they know to deal with the mental health patients. And more importantly, the mental health patients look for the little green badge on the deputy's uniforms or any police officer uniform, and they know that's the person that understands what they're going through. So I want to see more of that training for all the staff, right from the supervisors as well. The supervisors that work the road, work the courthouse should have this as well. So those are just some of the things I would do. And I think that expands on the things that you and I spoke about earlier.
Captain Fatherhe, 45 seconds.
Mental health assessments in the jail are vital. I think that if it's a nonviolent person and we're able to get with the judge right away, we should be able to move them out of the jail and into a mental health facility. If that's not a capability, I think that some of the other options that we have for the future, we've got to change the way that we do this. Jails have now become the mental health facilities. So perhaps we should be looking at having a wing specifically for those that are mentally ill, and having qualified individuals there taking care of those people for those that are violent. Otherwise, I think that addiction and recovery are part of the issues that the mentally ill have.
Time is up. But you get the next question, Captain Fatherhe. It goes to you.
You're both describing things that we've had in the past in some form, some of them, and some of them were eliminated during the last financial crisis, as were things like religious services and library services and recreational facilities. Given that all the forecasts for budgets in the future are shaky at best, next time you're in tough financial times, what would your priorities be for the sheriff's budget?
For the sheriff's, actually, our budget's going to be for next year, it's going to be flat. We already know what the budget's going to be. As far as priorities are concerned, I think that there are ways that we can still provide the support services to the inmates that they need without it costing us additional income. If you watch your money and you properly place all the employees where they really need to be, where it's vital, I think that services should not end up being cut. I think also that as far as the jail is concerned, currently almost all of our programs have been returned. The jails are open. The inmate services are doing a lot of video visitations. NA, AA, and chaplains are returning to the jail. So currently all those programs are coming back, even though COVID has occurred that shut them down. But financially, there's no reason why you can't continue even with a reduced income. You just have to reallocate resources.
45 seconds for you, Captain Parker.
So the county reached out to me sometime back in June or July, and they kind of filled me on what was going to happen in 2021. And Captain Father's right, it's going to be a flat budget, but that doesn't mean that we're going to have to cut services back when it comes to 2021. Currently, the gyms are back to open up, the programs are back open up in the jail. But if it gets to something later on down the road, I think you have to go through the entire agency and find out maybe you don't replace the cruisers for 2 or 3 years as opposed to every other year or something along those lines. We hold off on buying something in the jail that you may not need, but the services have to remain in the jail. We spent a lot of time to bring those back, and it took us 10 years to bring the gyms back, and I don't want to go down that road again where we take that long to bring those programs back. We have the money for next year. We'll look at next year and we'll get through it. And in 2022, we'll sit down. Sorry.
Your time's up. Captain Barker, you get the next question though.
Captain, one of the ripple effects of everything going on now is that the evictions are likely to just skyrocket. And often your deputies with the sheriff's office are the ones that are going out to enforce some of these evictions. Are there any changes you'd like to see with state law and that will make the process easier and more humane for not only the residents, but for the deputies to not have to be put in these situations?
You know, I've talked to the guys that work in that. In fact, unfortunately, we had a suicide take place several years ago up in Northfield Village, and we can't have that kind of stuff go on. I think if we get some intel from the local police agencies, we let them know ahead of time, we're coming into wherever that may be, we're coming to one of your streets. Do you have any information on this person? I'd reach out to them. And if they did, they've had some interaction, because usually they build up. They don't usually start one time and it explodes. There's usually buildups to it. And if those local agencies have had issues with that, I would reach out to the ADM board. I would reach out to mental health professionals and say, hey, can you be on scene? Not necessarily when we knock on the door, because there's a big safety issue. But when we get there, we need to have a professional that's trained in that to talk those people through it. I think that's a terrible thing. My mom and dad went through that. I can't even imagine what it's like. I mean, I haven't been there. I don't want to go there. But I think you need to have some intel before you get there so that you can help the people when they're going through that, and having a professional along, a block or two down, call them in once the scene is secure and it's relaxed, and have them talk to that person. You got to have some compassion for what these people are going through. Thank you.
Captain Fatherhy, 45 seconds.
Well, I've been in charge of the civil division for several years, so I am extremely familiar with evictions and how they're done. We do them humanely. We're not like some of the cities When a person loses their home and they've gone through the entire process, and it comes down to that they have to be removed from the home, our deputies go out and interact with them on a regular basis. If we determine that they have mental illness or they are elderly, and then we attach them to services that can help them. We do it in the most humane way. We also apply all of their property is placed in storage, so it's not set out on the street. So currently, we are very humane.
Time is up. Captain Father Heath, you get the next question.
Unlike many other jails in Ohio that have deputies on the road and in civil divisions and corrections officers in the jail, Summit County has deputies overseeing the jail as well. Can you discuss what you see as the advantages and disadvantages of that arrangement?
Oh, absolutely. I can tell you what the advantages of deputies over corrections officers are. They're a combination of about, a deputy has 740 hours worth of training that they receive, and then our deputies receive another 140 hours worth of corrections training. A corrections officer receives 600 hours less training than a deputy does. And in the long run, the only cost difference between a deputy and a correction officer is about $6 an hour. So the education for a deputy is so much higher, and they spend a lot more time with ethics. They spend a lot more time with diversity, and so the training is just extremely different. And as far as the Summit County Sheriff's Office is concerned, we do not have the problems that they're having up in Cuyahoga County. Cuyahoga County has corrections officers, and look at all the problems that they've had, the deaths that they've had, and the people that have had corrections officers bringing contraband in and using drugs. We don't have that problem in our sheriff's office. So deputies are absolutely higher qualified and have a lot more training than what corrections officers do.
Captain Barker.
And Father is 100% accurate on that. That was a recommendation put out by the Jail Advisory Commission, and we didn't follow that recommendation. And I know that some people wanted us to go down that path. We chose not to go down that path. More importantly, Sheriff Berry and the Executive Office chose not to go down that path. I thought that was a very important decision. But one of the main advantages of having them in there is when something happens, whether we've been going, in the last few years, it's been weather related things. When other agencies are hit with something large, let's say we went up to Twinsburg and Hudson just a few years back, and they've got 20 or 30 men and women. They can't put them on the road as quick as we can. We have 300 sworn deputies that we can pull from our ranks. 160 of them are assigned to the jail, and we can pull them out and put them anywhere in the county and help anybody's problem, whether it's law enforcement, crowd control, traffic control.
Time's up. But you get the next question, Captain Barker, so go ahead.
Okay.
Captain, have you guys been looking at COVID and making any preparations in the jail, specifically how you're going to deal with this as it continues? And have you learned any lessons from since the onset of COVID of how to make things safer at the jail? So
fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, the COVID came after I retired. I retired last August, but I've kept in contact with the supervisors and the executives over there that run the facility. And I know they cut back on the amount of inmates they take. They don't take the they don't take the low level offenders anymore. They take felony 2s and above. They've got certain pods where people go. Housing units. I know some people don't know what a pod is, but when they get booked into the jail, they go into a quarantine, and they're put in there for a certain amount of time. It's probably 14 days, I think, they've been told. So those things, and then we have all the cleaning supplies, all the disinfecting supplies. We have the PPE for the inmates and for the staff, and the medical staff takes care of the entire jail. They take care of our guys and the inmates. So those are lessons we learned, and I think that's going to be an ongoing thing, at least through this year, if not part of next year. And that's something we're going to have to continue to work hard on, because I think this is something that who knows how long this is going to be here, but they've taken care of it. They've done a good job at it, and I think we'll continue to do that.
Captain Fatherhy, 45 seconds.
Well, we've been very fortunate that we have not had one single person with COVID-19 in our jail. Now, we do happen to have 3 deputies recently that may have contracted it, but they never came back to the jail after they had their trip. So none of our inmates have had COVID-19. When they come into the jail, they are put into a quarantine of 14 days. They are let out individually each day so that they have their time out of the jail or out of their cell. We still have gym activities, and everything is being cleaned and everything's being taken care of. Now, obviously, the number of inmates that we have in the jail has decreased, but I don't see it changing. What we're doing is working, and I don't see a change in that.
Time is up. Captain Farley, you get the next question.
What should the relationship be between the Sheriff's Department and Immigration and Customs Enforcement? And what should it be between the Sheriff's Department and the immigrant community in Summit County?
Well, I've already reached out to the Nepali community. I've spent quite a bit of time in the last year interacting with them and actually trying to encourage them to consider the Sheriff's Office as a form of employment. I think that the Sheriff has to interact more with the International Institute and with the immigrants, the new citizens coming into our county. It's critical. There are more and more of them coming in, and we need to understand them, and we also need to tap into them as a potential employees for the future. And then I'm sorry, the second question, part of your question was?
What should the relationship be with ICE, with Immigration and Customs Enforcement?
Well, as far as ICE is concerned, I think that we have enough of our own problems in this county. Obviously, if a immigrant commits a crime and needs to be placed in our jail, that's what we're going to do. But only because the fact that they have they've been accused of a crime here in Summit County, and they'll go through our adjudication process. We should have a positive response with ICE, but I don't know that we need to be holding their prisoners.
Captain Barker, 45 seconds.
So I don't think that the Sheriff's Office should be going around through our community and enforcing those laws. That's not our job. But I think when there's a detainer put on by ICE or any other, whether it's the Marshal Service, anything like that, which we do work with the Marshal Service right now, I think that's another law enforcement agency, just like any of the ones throughout the county. And I'm going to cooperate with them. If they've got a legal signed by the judge detainer for some person that has broken one of the laws that are on the books of the United States of America, I'm going to assist that agency with what they need to do.
Okay, the next question goes to Captain Barker.
What in the fallout, protests and activism that followed the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and other people of color by police agencies has helped the Sheriff's Office become better?
It's been a very, very rough few months for everybody. I just sat down and spoke with the Black elected officials of Summit County, and I spoke with them back in the spring pre-George Floyd, and then I spoke with them after George Floyd, and the conversation was very different on both of our parts. I think it's what it's done is it's given us, all of us, a chance to sit down, and the problems we have to get through together. We can't do it alone. One group of people cannot do it. Nothing, it's a terrible tragedy. None of us wish it happened. Wish we could probably all go back and do it again, but it's happened. We can't do anything with it, but we can learn from it. And I think that sitting down and talking, these are tough conversations. I just had one Sunday, and let me tell you, it was a tough conversation. But at the end, I think we looked at each other. They thanked me for my time. I thanked them for their time. It was a very good conversation. Is what this is going to do is it's going to make us all sit down and look at each other as Americans, as human beings, and we can work these problems out. We're all not that different. We all probably have 99% of the same feelings and thoughts for our family, friends, relatives, our community. We don't want that kind of stuff. I think that the outreach that I've made with some of the officials that have contacted me, I'll continue those, and they're going to be part of my transition team, and they're going to advise me throughout my tenure as Sheriff of Summit County. Thank you.
Captain Fatherhy.
I think that there have been a lot of conversations that have taken place that would not have taken place prior to George Floyd. Not just from myself to the Black community, but also within the sheriff's office itself. That was a horrible tragedy that occurred. Some of the things that I think that we can take away from that, though, is some of the programs that they've got that are out there. We need to actively research models that are working in other locations. We need to cure violence. There's a model that's cure violence. We need to work with Faith and Blue. It's a national program to bring the communities together.
And that's your time, but you get the next question, Captain Father He. So let's go ahead with that, please.
And once again, we'll dovetail perfectly because I wanted to know what you think, well, what the relationship is and what you think is the optimum relationship for the Sheriff's Department with the faith community.
Oh, we can't move forward without them. It's critical. I spoke with the Black pastors a few weeks ago and talked to them about the possibility of them coming in and actually doing the training for diversity and inclusion. I think that, many of our officers don't understand what it feels like to be a Black person who is pulled over by a police officer. And I think that they have a very unique perspective. They are trained and the faith-based community, they wear a lot of different hats. So I think that they absolutely they have to be part of what we do. The other thing is between the Black elected officials and the Black pastors, I think that we have to start working on building trust between the sheriff's office and the Black community itself. They need to learn to trust us. We need to learn to trust them. And I think that we need to start getting involved in 100 Black men. These marches are critical. And I think that there is no better time than now to take advantage and move all of us forward. It really is time for change.
Captain Barker.
So I met with, like I said, I just met with the Black law enforcement officials and Black law enforcement elected officials of Summit County. We had a very hard conversation, and Dr. Akbar made a comment to me, and he's 100% correct. I don't know what it's like to be like him. He doesn't know what it's like to be like me. But the only way we get down that path is talking to them. They have a great thing, connection versus collision. Collisions help nobody. There's nothing that comes good of that. Now, is what I would like to do, and they may not be willing to help this, but if they can come in and do our training, I listened to Coach Kent Boyd. I would love to play football for the guy if that's what he coached. I think that's what it was. But he's a very good talker. I'd like him to come in, talk to our guys and our men and our women at the sheriff's office, and it'll be a 20 or 30 week commitment in a couple hours and in service.
Your time's up, but you get the next question, Captain Barker.
For you, Captain, what is and should be the relationship between the Sheriff's Department and the media?
I think that, so I've interviewed with a lot of different media. The vast majority of them have been very fair to me. I have no complaints. If you don't have a free and open media, you don't have a free and open country. I'm all for that. When they want to call and talk to me, or they want to talk to some of my staff, I'm okay with that. That's how you get the word out. You get the word out with good relationships with the media. Once they get to trust me, and once I get to trust them, which I already do, I've already talked to them a lot when I ran patrol. I talked to them a lot when I was in the jail. I think that the access to the media and them talking to me, more importantly, is they can get a hold of the sheriff and say, hey, what is going on here? I think that I think they're going to want to talk to the sheriff, and I'm going to want to talk to them. So I'm going to do a lot more of that than what we do right now. I'm going to be available to them to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Captain Father He.
I believe that availability and transparency are both critical as far as interacting with the media. Media now comes to you at so many different platforms, and I think that you have to have a good relationship with the media. They're critical to sharing the information that we have to share, whether it be good or bad. And I think that transparency is critical, and I think that they have to get it out there, and it should be open and honest, and I should be available, and so should those people within the organization.
Okay. Thank you. We're getting toward the end of our debate. So Schultz, if you could go to the final question, and that goes to Captain Fatherhy. If you could go to number 26, please.
Okay. How can the community help you do your job?
Help me recruit. Help me recruit, become more engaged with the sheriff's office. Let us come into the community and be honest with us and help us to share what's going on. Provide us with ideas to make us better. We've got to restore community trust both ways. And I think the only way that we can do that is to interact with one another. And I'm talking about the entire county. Those communities that we don't normally patrol and you generally don't see us in unless one of our civil division is in there. I think that we have to engage with more often with the mayors and the county council people or the city council people. And I think that they have to help us by holding us accountable. I think accountability, accountability from the community is the most important thing. That's what we're going to do to return trust. Sorry.
That's okay. Captain, are you done?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Sorry, Captain Barker, same question.
So I'm going to have an office of community outreach at the sheriff's office, and I'm going to rely on them and myself to go out and talk to the community and find out what the problems are and bring them in and talk to me. We have to have an open dialogue. One of my mottos in my campaign is law enforcement for the people, by the people. You elect your law enforcement when you're electing the sheriff. This is not disparaging to the local police departments. They do a great job. I live in Macedonia, and they protect me and my family day in and day out, and I'm okay with that. But the office of the sheriff, you elect the sheriff to do the law enforcement in your community. What better reform is if that man or woman that's your sheriff is not doing a job, you can recall them or vote them out of office. So again, a lot of community outreach, and I'm going to have a transition team that reflects the community, and they're going to continue to advise me for as long as I'm sheriff of Summit County.
Okay, thank you both candidates. We're now at the point of our debate where each candidate has 90 seconds to make a summation statement. Keeping the order that we've been going in, Captain Barker, you get to go first.
So just want to reintroduce myself to the community and to yourselves. I spent 25 years with the sheriff's office. I retired as a captain. I'm currently still a deputy sheriff with the sheriff's office. I'm a special deputy. What that means, if there's extra jobs that I want to work, I can do that. Or if the sheriff wants to call me out because there's a problem, I can do that. But I have the same authority that somebody's getting a full-time paycheck. I spent 9.5 years on Macedonia City Council. That taught me how to get things done. I was a charter member of the Jail Advisory Commission. I was able to get things done. We got things done in the jail within a year. We got the cameras in. We got Glenwood Jail shut down. We put the deputies at our shifts. We opened up the jail. I believe in talking, and I wish we were face-to-face. I think I missed that. I hope that this comes back really soon. I sat down with the Black elected officials of Summit County in February and interviewed me. We had a great talk, and I said, I just talked to them again. I want to continue to talk to all organizations. I want to have an open door. I'm going to have an office at the jail. The sheriff is going to have an office at the jail for the first time in about 20 years. I'm going to have an office in the jail. I will work from there at least one day a week. And more importantly, I want the citizens, I want everybody that's here watching me, I want everybody that knows me to hold me accountable. You have to hold me accountable. I think you have to hold all your elected officials accountable, but I'm asking for that. I kind of need that. I want to, if there's a problem, contact me. My email's out there right now, barkerforsheriff.com. Take a look at it, see what I'm about. And if there's questions, I'll answer them.
Okay, thank you. Captain Fatherhy, 90 seconds for your concluding statement, please.
First, I'd like to thank the Akron Press Club, Love Akron, Akron Interfaith Social Justice Group, and the University of Akron Civility Center for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm running for sheriff because it's time for positive change, and I do pledge to address transparency, accountability, and professionalism. I became a law enforcement officer 28 years ago so that I could serve the public by saving the victims and arresting the criminals. And I spent my entire career doing just that. 21 years ago, I fought for equality and fairness, and my fight continues today. I am not the face of the sheriff's past, but I am the face of the sheriff's future. I've been preparing to be your sheriff for more than 12 years, having attended the FBI National Academy for Executive Leadership. And next week, I complete my Criminal Justice Associate's degree with a GPA of 3.82. I serve on the board of directors for the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association, and I'm heavily involved in all the issues that affect the sheriff's offices throughout the state. And I'm dedicated to improving professionalism, diversity, and inclusion, repairing community relationships, and working to improve safety and quality of life for all of our communities. I'm Candy Fothery, and I am asking for your vote for Summit County Sheriff. Thank you. Thank everyone.
Thank you, candidates, for participating in this debate. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Love Akron, for hosting the virtual debate. Thank you, audience. We know you're out there, but we can't see you, but we know you're out there. This concludes our debate. Now it's important that we all go out on November 3rd and vote. Again, thank you for participating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. We would like to thank each and every one of you for being here. I am Lori Porter with Love Akron, and I'd like to thank our sponsors, folks that sponsor Love Akron throughout the year, Cap Trust, PEGS Foundation, Gertrude F. Orr Foundation, New Innovations, and the Maynard Family Foundation, to name a few. I'd like to thank the Akron Interfaith Social Justice Group, the Akron Press Club, and those of you over there at the Civility Center for putting this debate together. What a great service to our community tonight. On behalf of our Executive Director, Kemp Boyd, and Love Akron, we'd like to thank you all for allowing us to serve you all this way this evening. Just want to remind you that Love Akron is here to bring together the many sectors of our community so that we can connect, convene, and collaborate with change makers just like you, so that we can make a collective impact in Greater Akron. Again, thank you for allowing us this opportunity, and we'll see you next time. Ben?
Thanks, Miss Lori, and thank you everyone again, of course, for being together. A couple quick notes. 100 Black Men, we are going to be having an event October 15th with the youth of Akron, as well as, I believe, the police force, which will be wonderful. And then you might have heard about Connection versus Collision. This is October 21st, 1:30, and we're going to be talking about how we can lament with each other. It is extremely important in our racial healing that we're looking to do. So please make sure to join us. And whatever you do, man, we just want to love Akron, and we want to facilitate you loving Akron too. So love Akron, guys, and we will see you soon.
Take care.